Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 23rd, and it is time to talk about the new stimulus bill. So we've got a lot to talk about. I feel like a lot has changed since even last Friday when I was on here talking about the impending stimulus bill. So now we have a few things to go over. So I'm going to let people join. I'm going to give you just a second to let people join because we had a ton of people that RSVP'd to this. So I want to make sure that everybody gets in because do we have some things to talk about. So I thought I was going to be taking this Wednesday off. That was the original intention. I'm at my in-laws' house right now. You can tell I don't have my normal setup. I don't have my normal computers. I'm a little like out of sorts right now. So, but I wanted to make sure that I came on here because so many questions we've seen in the group coming through about what's going on right now. And so I wanted to give you kind of an update. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what's in the bill and what we can kind of expect going forward, which, at this point, your guess is a little bit as good as mine, but I want to give you guys a full update. So right now I'm going live. I'm on my YouTube channel, Jamie Trull. Make sure to subscribe if you're watching me over there. I'm also live in my financial literacy for women business owners Facebook group. If you are not a member of it, I would love you to come join. Even if you're not a woman, we are an inclusive group. Hi guys, hi Michelle, hi Bree. Good morning, everybody. So when you're here, tell me you are here. Okay, so let's start with just a backup of where are we? Where have we been over the last couple of days? Because I know some of you guys may have been paying a lot of attention and others of you maybe not so much. So let's talk about kind of the evolution of where we have been. So this stimulus bill has been being talked about for months and months and months and months, and it has been all over the place. And those of you guys who have been tuning in, it's been a lot of back and forth and back and forth. Well, we knew that they had tied the stimulus bill to the government funding bill. So, the reason that they did that is because they had to pass the normal government funding bill, the omnibus bill. It funds the government through next September, and so they did that because they had a specific line in the sand where they had to get something passed. So they decided to put the two together. They've thought about doing that before in previous spending bills, but they finally decided, you know what, we need to get something passed, and they put these bills together. So they had passed a resolution on Friday to give them a little bit more time to finalize the details. On Sunday, they came to an agreement. So this is all the parties came to kind of the agreement on what was going to be in the stimulus. The stimulus itself is $900 billion. It's also included in a bill that is the omnibus spending bill, which is the normal spending bill for the government, which is $1.4 trillion. So that's why I'm getting a lot of people talking about how long the bill is, and it is. I opened it up for the first time to look at it when we finally got the text on Monday or Tuesday. I don't even know what day anymore. I think it was on Monday. And it's 5,593 pages. But the reason for that is because, again, a portion of that is the COVID relief bill, and the rest is the typical government spending bill that they put together. So we thought we had an agreement on Monday. I dove in, I started making notes. I started looking specifically at the sections that related to small business owners. They have a bill in there. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's called something about hard hit small businesses, nonprofits, and venues Act, aid to hard hit small businesses, nonprofits, and venues Act. That's included within this big giant bill. So that's probably what applies the most to you guys. Also, as part of this big giant bill, as part of the COVID relief bill, it has the direct stimulus payments to people. So that's the $600 that's been talked about the most. So the $600 would be direct payments similar to the $1,200 that we had before. They would apply similarly. The requirements and the income phase outs and things like that would be similar. Same thing around the fact that adult dependents, unfortunately, would be left out of this. But adults and children alike, would get $600 each from this portion that's included within the bill. And the reason I bring that up now is because that's become very contentious as of late. So Monday, they released the bill. By Tuesday, or maybe it was, I think they both actually passed on Monday night. They voted in the House and the Senate. They passed it with a pretty heavy majority to pass this bill. right? And they have a deadline on this bill too, because if they don't pass this bill and they don't get this bill enacted, it actually will end up shutting down the government, because remember, it's tied to the government spending bill. So there's a lot going on here, obviously. Well, on Tuesday, right? What day is it? Wednesday? I'm losing my days, you guys. On Tuesday, last night, a lot of you may have seen that President Trump came out and basically said, he posted about a 4-minute video on Twitter that said, was threatening essentially not to sign the bill. And this, I think, was a total shock to a lot of people in Congress. I have to say, you guys, not a total shock to me. I'm gonna brag for a hot second, because I told my husband on Monday night, I saw some chatter in the group, and I saw some chatter on Twitter as well about certain parts of the bill. And what was happening is I saw the fact that people were questioning sort of, pork barrel in the bill. There's money going overseas in the bill to different countries and things like that. Now, I do have to point out, and I think this is important, the money we're seeing going overseas and that you may have seen quoted and floating around in memes and things like that on Twitter are not part of the COVID relief bill. Those are part of the regular government funding bill. If you go open any other regular government funding bill, including ones that have been signed off by this president and many other presidents before, there's very similar things in it. So I want to just point that out, because I do think there's a little bit of confusion around, well, why is our COVID money going overseas and going into these kind of random pet projects from both sides of the aisle? There are pet projects that are included in that. That is no different than it normally has been. Now, does that make it right? That's not on me to say, right? But the only reason that we as a public really know about it, because I don't know when you guys ever opened up a government funding bill, probably never. I never have, right? We looked at this one because it was also the COVID stimulus bill. So a lot of what you see happening, a lot of the backlash is related to what's in the regular government funding bill. And so I want to make that clear. So, Trump basically said there's too much pork barrel in here and we need higher stimulus checks to people. And so I told my husband that Monday night, I said, I could totally see Trump saying he won't sign it, because he was seeing the backlash that was happening. He watches what's going on Twitter. We know that. And so it totally did not take me by surprise yesterday, but I think it took Mitch McConnell and folks by surprise. So as far as what happens from here, I don't know. We are going to have to see. We are in Christmas week. This bill has to get passed so that there's not a government shutdown. They've got to do something. And so we're going to see a lot of political posturing on all the sides, trying to figure out where they go from here. So your guess is as good as mine. Now, I will say, because I think a lot of people, a lot of small business owners had a bit of a different reaction to the bill in general. I think there's a ton of great stuff in here for small business owners. And if you guys have been seeing what's going on with, they've got some great changes for PPP, for the EIDL stuff, for unemployment. There's a lot of really good things, and a lot of those impact small business owners very heavily. And so I think a lot of small business owners are now worried, if it doesn't get passed, what happens, right? You want to access these funds. I do think something will get passed, and the things that are being argued about right now are not the things they're not PPP, they're not EIDL. Those things are not going to be changing in whatever the final bill is. We just don't know when something's going to get passed. That's the big question, is when, right? Is it going to be by the end of the year that we had thought, or is it going to go into next year? But yeah, Brie, there's a lot of really good things for small business owners in this bill. So I'm going to talk about the bill now that I've given you kind of where we're at. And no, it hasn't been signed yet. Will it be signed? We don't know. Will they modify parts of it to get it through? What's going to happen? We don't know. In theory, let's just play this out really quickly, because a lot of people have been talking about this. In theory, let's say Trump doesn't sign the bill, right? Or let's say he vetoes the bill. Does the House and the Senate have the majority to be able to pass it? They do right now, right? You have to have 2/3 vote to overcome a presidential veto. Right now, based on who voted for it previously, if the same people voted for it, yes, it would be veto proof. They could sign it into law anyway. But the truth of the matter is, there's a good chance that a lot of members of Congress may follow Trump's lead, since he has now signaled that he doesn't agree with it. So a lot of votes could be turned, which could create it such that it doesn't have that veto-proof majority. So again, the next several days are going to, there's a lot that's probably going to be happening behind the scenes. So we're going to have to wait and see. I hate saying that. I know I hate saying that. I'm so tired of saying wait and see. But hopefully where we end up is going to be a good place for everybody. I really do think a bill will pass. We just don't know when. And that bill will include a lot of the things for small businesses that are in this bill. So I'm going to talk about what's in this bill. And I will tell you that whenever this passes, this type of thing, but it is not likely that any of this will change when something does eventually pass. That's why I think it's important that we still talk about it and we know what's in there. Now, I do also have to say, it is 5,593 pages, right? So I have not read all of it. I've read a lot of it in between, scavenger hunts with my kids and Christmas festivities, but it is long. So I don't know all the answers. I know a lot of people are asking all the answers, and even all the answers are not included in the bill. So we are going to have to wait, just like we did with previous bills, right? We're going to have to wait for the bill to come out. Then there's some work that's going to be done on Treasury and the SBA's side to actually issue that interpretive guidance that we need to see to know how this is going to work in practice. So it's kind of like the bill is the theory, and then we've got to wait for the instructions. So a lot of these nitty gritty things, right? A lot of these little things that that we want to know the answers to now, we just have to take a collective breath a little bit and wait. Because I'm the same way. I'm like, well, where's the answer? There's got to be an answer. But we maybe need to take a collective breath and enjoy our holidays, hopefully, as best we can, and wait for the dust to settle. Don't reach out to your bank today. They don't know any of the answers either. I know a lot of people are like raring to go and want to jump on this. Don't worry, but we got a bill's got to pass first. And then we got to give it some time to actually see what that implementation guidance looks like so that we can get answers to all your questions. But there are some things we do know, and I will tell you that. Okay, you guys are sweet. You guys are adorable. I mean, yeah, we have to wait for the interim final rules. Exactly. Okay, so I got a ton of you guys on here, man, on Christmas Eve. Okay. So let's talk first. What subject do y'all want to talk about first? You want to talk about PPP? We can talk about PPP. I also have a PPP video that I linked that is just like a 9-minute video that I did the other day talking about some of the big changes. But second round of PPP is coming at some point. Second round of PPP is coming. It will be very similar to the first, but expanded. So if you, it will be calculated similarly. So it's 2.5 times average monthly payroll. In most cases, you're probably going to use 2019. You can use the last 12 months as well, but for most people, 2020 had lower payroll. So you probably want to go back to 2019 and use that. It does still have 60% will have to be used on payroll. The main big difference here, though, is to be able to get a second draw. If you already got a first one, to be able to get a second one, you have to prove hardship. And the way the bill defines this hardship is your gross receipts for 1 quarter of 2020, pick any quarter, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, has to be down at least 25% compared to the same quarter of 2019. Okay, so you would pick, if you had a really crappy, third quarter, you pick probably your crappiest quarter, honestly, and you would compare, that change. How do you prove this? Again, this is something we're going to have to wait for Treasury to tell us exactly what needs to be provided to prove it. But more than likely, I would assume it's going to be bank statements, and probably having a P&L doesn't hurt either. But it's on gross receipts. So that's money coming in. That's not your profit. It's your gross receipts. So how much did you collect from customers? If you got stimulus money, PPP, that doesn't count. So don't worry about feeling like a lot of people have asked, well, if I got PPP, I had a crappy Q3, but I got PPP. Doesn't matter. PPP doesn't count in this. It's just your actual gross receipts into your business. So if you were shut down for a lot over 1 quarter, that might be a good quarter to pick, even if you got PPP during that quarter. So 25%, it's moved around. It was 50%, then 40%, then 30%. Now it's 25% is the final that they've put in the bill. PUA does not impact gross receipts because PUA is personal income to you. That's not business income. So make sure when you're getting that, that you aren't putting that in your business because you don't want to accidentally get double taxed. So PUA is not business income. PUA is personal income to you, like a paycheck. So it is handled differently, but it does not count. Okay, so let's see. There is no nothing in here that says that you can use 2018. It would have to be 2019 or the last 12 months previously. So theoretically, if you had your 2020 numbers and you applied in January, you could probably use 2020 if you wanted to. Let's see. So for seasonal, it doesn't really, because you're picking the same quarter of one year versus the same quarter of the last year. So it should still work for seasonal, right? Now, if you're a new business, let's say you don't have Q1 and Q2 of 2019, but you have Q3 and Q4, then you're going to pick either Q3 or Q4, right? Or if you're a new business, you started in January, you're going to pick your January, February, March. You're going to pick, basically, you could do Q1 of this year, essentially pre-COVID, and compare it to another one. So there's some things in the bill that kind of speak to that a little bit. For people that don't have a full year 2019. Okay, let's see. You are going to want to file your taxes for 2019. That's going to probably be necessary to be able to use that for PPP. It was towards the end as well. Okay, and yes, it does apply to independent contractors. So same people can get it. So previously independent contractors, sole proprietors, you can get it just like you could the first one. You just have to prove that gross receipts. Now, what I am not clear on is, it's not super clear to me in the bill, and I'm waiting to see this in an FAQ from Treasury. If you didn't get a first draw of PPP, right, then do you have to prove the 25% decline or not? So if you're getting your first PPP, I think the answer is no, but don't quote me on it because I'm not entirely sure from the way that it reads. And you can, yes, you can absolutely get both of them forgiven. Same rules around forgiveness. You can use it for more things. And actually this applies if you have a first round of PPP that you haven't gotten forgiven yet and you're worried a part's not going to be forgiven. Well, the good thing is now you can count more things. So just some regular operating expenses are going to count in that 40% that you could use it for, right? So it's going to be even things like software if it's necessary for your business. It's going to be things like if you had to retrofit your like for a drive-through window or something like that. If you had to get personal protective equipment, right? You can use all of that. So that applies also if you haven't gone through that forgiveness process yet with your first one and you were worried you weren't going to get forgiven. If you had those expenses, you may be able to count those towards PPP as well. And for the second round, you definitely will. So they have expanded it. They're trying to make it easier. Another big change. Okay, this is great. So y'all are already, you're ahead of me in what I'm about to talk about. So 150,000. I don't want to call it blanket forgiveness because that's not what it is. I think blanket forgiveness makes you think that it's automatic and you don't have to do anything. It does further simplify the application process for $150,000 and under. It basically says the max is a 1 page. It's probably just going to collect a few bits of information and ask for certifications that you used it correctly. That's when we're going to have to wait on Treasury to see what that application looks like. You will still have to apply though. So don't think, for no one, it's not automatic forgiveness for anybody. Everybody's going to have to apply. But if it's under $150,000, it will be on a simplified form that we haven't seen yet because it doesn't exist yet. But when it does, you guys know where to find it. Y'all know I'm going to have a video about it. So yes, so you will want to pay attention to that, but they are moving the direction of even further simplifying forgiveness. One of the big questions, and I'm sure somebody's asked it in here, I'm going to look really quickly. Let's see. Okay, so Bree agrees with me. You read it the same way. It sounds like the first time PPP won't have to prove 25%. That's what I think too, but I want to see an FAQ that confirms that. Okay, so I'm looking to see, because you guys are usually ahead of me. Somebody's probably asked this question. So a lot of people have been asking me, if I haven't gotten my first loan forgiven yet, will I be able to apply for a second? And banks are saying all kinds of things, y'all. Don't listen to your banks yet. They don't know anything. Like, I'm going to be honest, because I even saw somebody said, I think it was Chase Bank, that sent them something saying that they couldn't qualify, that Chase is being told, I don't know by whom, that people won't be able to qualify, have 2 loans outstanding at a time. So they have to get forgiven for the first before they got a second. I have not seen that anywhere. I see that nowhere in the bill. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me, but I have no idea what that's based off of. And I think that that would be exceedingly unfair as well, because a lot of banks haven't even accepted applications for forgiveness, and it takes a while to get forgiven. So that would be really unfair to people who hadn't gotten forgiven. I don't think that that's how it will work. I think maybe they'll allow you, if you have one outstanding, to actually do a second draw on it, essentially kind of refinance it and get that second draw out, or take out a second if you have had it approved. Because I've also heard banks saying the opposite, which is you can't get a second one if you've already been forgiven for the first. So don't listen to your banks yet. They're saying all kinds of things. Don't call them and ask any questions, because I tell you, they have not read the 5,593 pages either on their Christmas holiday week. So again, this is one of those where we got to let the dust settle. But I am hopeful that they won't have any kind of rules like that that will put people into a panic and a tizzy, because all of a sudden you're going to get a million people applying for forgiveness at once and create a huge bottleneck if they were to do that. And I really don't think that they will. Also, I just saw it. Haha. Okay, so EIDL advances. This was my favorite little section that I found within the guidance. It was one of the first things I looked for. If you got an EIDL advance and your PPP loan, remember, previously we had to subtract our EIDL advance, not the loan, the advance, the 1,000 per employee, from our forgiveness, our PPP forgiveness. So if you got a 50,000 PPP loan and a $5,000 EIDL advance, you could get forgiven for 45,000, and then you'd end up with $5,000 left that would essentially become a PPP loan, or you could pay it back. Some people paid it back right away. Gone. That is gone. That is sent to the wayside, which I am super thankful for, because that was a nightmare. Now, one thing I also saw, the way that it's written, it does require that Treasury basically makes people whole in some way, or they come up with a way that they're going to do this. So if you've already gone through forgiveness and you have a outstanding PPP loan that is your EIDL advance because it wasn't forgiven, then you likely will be able to, once the dust settles, don't do this today, tomorrow, nothing's passed yet, they're not going to know, but they should be able to make you whole for that, i.e. probably forgive that additional debt that you have. I'm curious to see what they do for people who've already paid it back, or for people who got a lower PPP loan to begin with because they had already subtracted the EIDL grant off. So Treasury is going to have to come up with the plan for how to do this equitably, but the way that the bill is written, everybody should be made whole on this. So pay attention to this one, but again, give it till, the dust settles. Once something's passed, then give it a couple of weeks. We need to wait on guidance. Banks won't have the guidance yet. And I know everybody's eager, but they're not gonna be able to give you a accurate answer, but you should be able to get that forgiven. Okay, let's see. So that was a really, really great one. That's one of the things I really, really like. Yep, Jeannie was asking the same question. For PPP, unfortunately, you still have to be in business by February of 2019. So what I'm telling people who are newer businesses, if you were not in business February of 2020. February of 2020. If you were not in business by February of 2020, then unemployment via PUA is probably the best bet, which has been extended. And there's an extra $300 that will be starting in January and run through roughly 11 weeks is what they have it. So mid-March-ish. So if that's you, and if you qualify for unemployment, right, you have to look and see if you qualify based on how much you're earning currently. Unemployment is usually the best bet there, because there's really not a ton of programs set up. They're really trying to take care of people who had a pre-existing business before COVID craziness, right? Okay, let's see. Yes, EIDL loans are still open. They may be opening advances again too. Now, there's some things on here that it's unclear exactly how this is going to play out, but they have put money in the bill for advances, for more advances. Now, some of those advances, so I'm actually going to, you know what, I'm going to read this so that you guys, because I pulled this piece up because I knew this is going to come up. But with your EIDL advances, they have a new piece in the bill. So people have been asking, are they going to make us whole, right? Because there was a whole question of, well, I only got a $2,000 advance because I have 2 employees. The bill originally called for 10,000, right? And so there were some Congress people that were saying, hey, we want to make everybody whole and give them the full 10,000. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. That wasn't in this bill. But what is in this bill is a make whole provision like that for lower income people and business owners. So I'm just going to read that section because I think it's interesting. So they have an extra $20 billion in additional EIDL grants that are really to close that gap. And so to qualify for the full 10,000, meaning if you got 2,000 and you should have gotten 10, or maybe you haven't gotten one at all, you have to be located in a low-income community. You have to have suffered an economic loss greater than 30%, and employ not more than 300 people. And so let's talk about what counts for each of these. So economic loss for this EIDL. Now, right now we're talking about EIDL grants and being able to get more EIDL grants. This is not the PPP. They define, unfortunately, economic loss differently than PPP, just to make it confusing, because heaven forbid we have a consistent definition all the way around. So in the case of getting more EIDL grant money, then an economic loss is defined as the amount by which the gross receipts, so money coming in, of the covered entity declined during the 8-week period, but during an 8-week period, you got to pick one, I guess, between March 2nd, 2020 and December 17th, 2021, relative to a comparable 8-week period immediately preceding March 2nd, 2020, or during 2019. I know that was a lot, but basically you pick an 8 weeks, you pick the 8 weeks right before March 2nd, 2020, and compare it to any 8-week period, essentially after March 2nd, 2020 through the end of 2021. And they have to still come up with formulas for seasonal businesses and things like that. But ultimately, you would have to have suffered an economic loss greater than 30% to qualify for more in EIDL loan. You also need to be in a low income community. And this is really probably the biggest sticking point here. So the term low income community means any population census tract if the poverty rate for such tract is at least 20%. Or in the case of a tract not located within a metropolitan area, the median family income for such tract does not exceed 80% of statewide median family income. And it keeps going on with a lot of technical language like that. But basically, if you think you might be in a low income community, then you could probably check on that. I'm assuming you would check with the SBA to see. I'm not sure if they're going to give us a list of who would qualify. But ultimately, if you're in a low income community, you might be able to be made whole and get a full $10,000 EIDL grant. That one we're gonna have to wait on some more guidance on, but I just wanted, if that applies to any of you guys, I wanted to let you know, because that's one I don't want you to miss out on if that is you. And again, we don't know, they may open the EIDL advances to other people as well. You probably can't get a second, but if you didn't get it the first time around, you may be able to get it this time. But the EIDL loans are still open, and that has been extended. Let's see. So this was the question. I don't think so unless you qualify for that low income, right? If you're in a low income community and you've had more than 30% drop, then yes, otherwise likely not. Let's see. So one other change with PPP is that you're going to be, so previously it was either 8 or 24 weeks, right? It was one or the other, which caused some confusion, like in when you're calculating it, because a lot of people used it within, say, 12 weeks, right? But technically it was 8 or 24 weeks that you had to pick, and that could mess up with things like your FTE calculation and stuff like that. They have changed this, which I think is a good change, to say your period can be anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks. So it definitely starts when you get the money. It always starts when you get the money. But if you use it in 12 weeks, that's your covered period. You don't have to keep your employees for that extra 12 weeks in order to make that make sense, right? So that's one of the changes they also made, that should also be kind of retroactive to ones that exist. So if that was causing anybody trouble, like if you, that would be most impactful if you had to lay off people in the middle of your covered period. If you just didn't need them, you used your PPP money and let people go. That could previously have impacted you from an FTE calculation and potentially put you in a place where you couldn't get full forgiveness. Now you can end, if you're applying for forgiveness anytime from now forward, you can end that period at like 12 weeks. And then it wouldn't impact, then your FTE calculation is just done over that 12 weeks, not the full 24. So that's kind of hidden in the bill, but I think that that's actually, as someone who, recognized how ridiculous it was, because some people wanted to apply for forgiveness but couldn't from their banks yet, but they had to lay off people and they were still in the middle of their loan. That was causing some consternation, or they potentially were keeping people on they didn't need just so that they didn't impact their forgiveness. So this fixes that problem. A little late, but better late than never, I suppose. Okay, so hopefully for the low income, hopefully they will give some guidance on exactly who qualifies. Okay, so let's see. So I've covered most of PPP. Let me actually, I made notes, y'all. I never make notes. I made notes today, and there's over 200 of y'all watching me. So I knew a lot of people would be interested in this one, so I made some notes. Okay, let's talk about, let me make sure that I've covered everything on PPP. I think PPP also, it's still 2.5 times your average monthly payroll, still based off of your Schedule C if you are a sole proprietor, et cetera. If you're a restaurant, you can actually get 3.5 times. So restaurant being defined as somebody who has NAICS code 72, then you would be able to get 3.5 times average monthly payroll in your second PPP loan. So I think that's a good change for people who are restaurants. There's also a whole new set of grants that are available to live venues. So they put up, I think it was 25 billion for live venue grants. So these are venues like music venues, things like that, where they haven't been able to be operational. And there's a whole, you can't get you can't get that and a PPP, but you can get the grant instead of a PPP. So more to come on that. But if you are one of those people that has like some kind of live venue of some sort, a theater or anything like that, then you could be able to get one of these grants. So stay tuned for more information, but there is that called for in the bill. Let's talk about SBA loan interest. If you guys have SBA loans, this is a really, really important. You guys know that you've had your loans being paid for, they were paid for a period of time for you. The principal and interest payments were being paid for you, which is amazing. That's not just a deference, they were actually being paid. They're going to do it again. So starting in February of 2021, again, when and if this bill signs, and I believe that when something is signed, it will include this in it. From February, for 3 months starting in February 2021, everybody with an SBA loan, and it would be one that you would have to, that you qualified for last time, right? So you probably know if you have a qualifying SBA loan, if you don't check with the SBA, you get paid for 3 months, principal and interest, starting in February 2021. If you are a specifically hard hit business, and there's a list of NAICS codes out there, if you're a specifically hard hit business, then you can get more months. So I'm actually going to show you guys, I linked above, there's a 10-page summary of just the small business portion of the bill that I think is helpful. It doesn't go into all the details that you guys probably want, but I think it is helpful if you guys don't feel like sitting down and reading 6,000 pages. It's a really good one. So I'm actually going to put this and add this to the stream right now really quickly. And I'm going to try to find, let me see, is that the section I need? Hang on a second. I think it's on page 6 is where they talk about the SBA. Sorry, guys. Okay. So section 325 is the extension of debt relief programs. So this is, it gives 3.5 billion for this through September 2021. So it's gonna resume the payment of principal and interest on small business loans guaranteed by the SBA under 7A, 504, and 1112 of the CARES Act. And it's going to receive an extra 3 months of principal and interest starting in February 2021. Going forward, those payments will be capped at $9,000 per borrower per month. It also provides that after the 3-month period described above, borrowers considered to be underserved, the smallest and hardest hit by the pandemic, will receive an additional 5 months of principal and interest, also capped at the $9,000. So those are people who have SBA microloans or 7A community advantage loans, and also these hard hit sectors. So you can see down here the NAICS code. So it's going to be that same 72: restaurants, food services, arts, entertainment, educational services. You can see all of them here. So if you want to look and see if you might qualify for that, if you've got an existing SBA loan and you want to see if you qualify for the extra 5 months on top of the 3 months that they're giving everybody, then click on this that I have linked above if you're on Facebook, below if you're watching me on YouTube, and see if you are in one of these industries. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. I'll take that off. But that is a really good summary anyway for anybody who wants to look at it. No, the EIDL is not part of that. You shouldn't have payments on your EIDL loan due anyway. So remember, there are no payments, there are no interest payments or principal payments even due on your SBA loan for, I think it's a year from when you get it. So you shouldn't have those due anyway at this point. Okay, what else? Paid leave. Let's talk about FFCRA paid leave. So this is the part where you're required to pay leave for your employees. That was going to, and you get a tax credit back for the full amount. So this is where you give 2 weeks of paid leave if somebody's diagnosed with COVID or if they're getting tested for COVID. And also this included the expanded FMLA for childcare, right? So there's a lot of question as to is that still going to be something that is required / available? It looks like in this bill, it sort of is extended through March 31st, right? The tax credit is, but it looks like it's not going to be mandatory. So previously was companies that fit the bill, I think it was under 500 employees, were mandatory, had to pay paid leave, 2 weeks of paid leave for COVID related reasons. And they have extended the tax credit to be able to get that full tax credit back. You get fully reimbursed for it. So I believe that there's no reason not to do it. There's a little bit of timing difference, but you get that money fully back. So I still think it's the right thing to do, but it won't be mandatory to do January through March, but it will be available. The tax credit will be available. So if you decide to do it, which again, I think unless you're under significant hardship, I think it's the best thing to do is to pay that leave, and also will make sure that employees stay home when they're sick. But you paid that leave. Now, it will not re-up. So if you've already paid 2 weeks for somebody, they don't get another 2 weeks. You can't take another same tax credit for the same person. If they've used up all their 2 week time, then they can't get more. But people who haven't used up that full amount of time can still get that, and you can get a tax credit back through March 31st. Hopefully that's helpful. Same thing with FMLA leave, childcare leave. Those tax credits will still be available. Let's see what else, guys. Ask me the rest of your questions. I'm looking through my list right now, as if we haven't talked about enough yet. But ask me what other questions you have. Let's see. I think that's all. I think I actually somehow covered all the things that I had written down to cover. Let's see. Yeah, so that's covered into the FMLA. If your kids have to be at home, if they can't be in schools, if your school's closed down, something like that, then that's covered under the expanded FMLA under the FFCRA, and that does continue similarly. You can get the tax credit back for that. PPP forgiveness, hey Celie, PPP forgiveness goes through, it's 10 months from the end of your covered period. So for most people, that's 24 weeks. So 10 months from then, before you're due to make payments on it. If your bank is asking you for payments on it already, you need to send them the text of the PPP Flexibility Act that was passed on June 5th of this year. I know that because I've looked at it far too much, but that says you have 10 months to apply for forgiveness, and they cannot require payment before forgiveness has been determined. Now, once forgiveness gets determined, then if you have an amount unforgiven, then that can be due right away. But they cannot start charging you until then. Now, interest is still accruing during that time, though. Let's see. Where there's I just missed no rewind button, but there will be a replay. So this will be on replay in the group if you want to go back and watch the beginning, because I think this is a good one for everybody to be aware of. Yes, unemployment is extended. They're adding more weeks to it, and also an extra $300 a week for 11 weeks if you qualify. Again, this is all still a bill that has not been enacted. It has not been signed. And there's a lot of, go watch the beginning of this if you want to hear the drama of where we are up until this point. Something will get signed that is similar to this. However, these things are not the point of contention in here. Let's see. Let's see. Hang on. Reading back through. Restaurants is 3.5 months for PPP. That's how much they can get, 3.5 months worth of payroll. Everybody else is 2.5 still. Oh, yes. Sorry, Phil. How could I forget? One of my other favorite things in this bill. Let's talk about taxability, okay? PPP money. We already knew it wasn't going to be income, right? But that's what was in the CARES Act. But then the IRS kind of backdoored it a little bit and said, no, I know it's not going to be income, but we're going to not let you deduct those expenses, which basically, guys, is kind of the same thing, right? It just actually is more difficult. The tax preparers of the world were horrified by this. It's so much easier for it to just be income if that's what they're going to do. But Congress came back and said, no, that was not the intention. IRS stand down and said, no, you're going to be able to deduct those expenses. So PPP is not income, and you can still deduct the expenses for it. It's a win-win, y'all. There's no tax consequences. So hopefully that will be something, again, still got to be signed, but that's not a point of contention. I think that most people are most Congress is in favor of that change. Same thing, the other thing, EIDL advance, for a long time, we assumed it was going to be taxable because nothing said otherwise, and typically grants are taxable. The EIDL grant, not taxable either. So for those of you who got the 10,000, I told you, like, throw, 20% of that, 30% of that in a separate account to pay your taxes on it. Don't worry about it. You're not going to have to pay taxes on it. The trend was a lot of that CARES Act money, not just that, but pretty much all the money. I'm trying to think about it, but for the most part, they've clarified, like, it's all tax-free. They're not going to be coming back and clawing back taxes on that. That was a really, really positive change that I think will have a pretty significant impact overall. Let's see. You probably don't, if you're on it right now, it'll probably just be continuing to certify as you normally are. I don't think you're going to have to go through a new application process if you're currently on unemployment. I do not think the EIDL loan will be forgiven. That's not even really been up for debate. I don't think they're going to blanket forgive that. Now, truthfully, because of the way that it's written, there's no personal guarantees on those. So take that for what it is. So yeah, but I do not think that they're going to blanket forgive them. Okay. Let's see. Yes, Bree, like, my tax preparer friends, Kelly was even more excited about some of these changes. I think that there are some positive changes from the tax consequences that'll make things a lot better. Let's see. And yes, it applies to the first round as well. So that's all PPP loans, first round, second round won't be taxable. Yay. We were a little worried because there were some previous versions of bills that seem to have a weird arbitrary, well, if they haven't been forgiven, or if they've already been forgiven, then it would be. And it was, so I like the fact that in this bill, they do seem to be trying to make it equitable and trying to make up for things such that people who already were, like, on top of things and got forgiveness aren't going to be screwed. Now, your forgiveness will be simpler for people in the future, but people who already were on the ball should not miss out on some of these positive changes, which is really good. I was a little worried they were going to have some arbitrary deadlines in there. Let's see. Can we use the advance money for deductions? Yes. Yep. So everything you pay with your advance is deductible as well. The EIDL loan. So the EIDL loan is not. So yes, the interest is deductible. The loan itself is not tax deductible because loans aren't tax deductible because they're loans, right? So it doesn't count as income. It's a loan on your balance sheet. The only thing that's going to hit your P&L from a loan perspective is going to be the interest that you pay, and that will be deductible. Yes, just like any other loan. Let's see. Oh yeah, the meals allowance change. Okay, so this one is interesting. They are now going to be, and I actually need to look and see when this takes effect, if this is in effect for 2020 as well. I'm assuming so, but the meals allowance change. What April's talking about here is meals are typically 50% deductible because they were looking to spur, they think, like, for restaurants, it's going to be helpful for meals to be 100% deductible, so that it encourages people to eat, restaurant food and things like that. So meals now, business-related meals, will be 100% deductible. I need to look up the rules on exactly when that starts and ends. April, if you know, tell me, because that's one I haven't looked at in detail. But it does make it easier, again, on tax preparers, because that was one of the annoying things, is having to break that out on your taxes for meals not being 100% deductible. Right. I'm so glad. Yay. I'm glad. I don't know what I am. Oh, you guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. I'm glad to be able to be here and, help you guys. After this, I'm probably going to go drink a bunch of wine. I'm going to be totally honest. Maybe not after this, because it's like 11 o'clock in the morning and that would be questionable, but eventually later tonight. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, effective after, I'm assuming you're talking about the meals deduction. So after 12/31/2020, that would make sense. That would make sense. Now I got to go change. I've got that in my course even. I'm going to have to go change that. Ugh. Anyway, okay, so yes, April agrees. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Let's see. Does changes need to be done in our QuickBooks since PPP expenses were put under against PPP short-term loan, or is that irrelevant? It's still the same in QuickBooks. So until you're forgiven, it's going to sit on your balance sheet as a loan. And then once it's forgiven, it's going to go into basically what's called like a non-taxable income type of account. So once that's forgiven, you put it to non-taxable income. Make sure, again, make sure you have a qualified tax preparer. Shout out to my preferred vendors. Where y'all at? I see April on here. I see Bree on here. We've got a great list of preferred vendors. If one of y'all wants to drop the link to the preferred vendors, if you want to make sure that you get a tax preparer that understands this stuff, if you want to make sure to get a bookkeeper that understands this stuff, then I want you guys to use my preferred vendors that are fully vetted, and they're awesome. So yeah, let's see. In most cases, no. In most cases, most of the support is going to go to businesses that were open by February. So some people are asking about a second round of EIDL. A second round of EIDL. So you can, if you have EIDL, you can, and a lot of times, petition to get it increased. So that's usually, you wouldn't apply for a second time. Typically, if you already have an EIDL outstanding, you would apply for an increase in that. I have seen it's a little bit of a rigmarole, just to warn you guys. Or maybe if you were rejected the first time, I would appeal that decision or apply for an extra amount if that's something that you need. That is something that I have seen people's refusals getting reversed and things like that, and their amounts getting increased. So, okay, good. Thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah, JamieTrull.com/preferred-vendors. That's where you can find my CPAs and bookkeepers and small business lawyers and all of that. Okay. Let me look through. So some of these I've already answered. So if I'm not putting your question up, it's probably because I already answered it and I just don't want to answer it. You can go back and watch some of it. Also, what was I going to say about PPP? There was something I was going to say about PPP as well. I can't remember now. I'll remember it probably as soon as I'm off of this. Yeah, I can't remember. Merry Christmas to all of y'all as well. Okay. We talked about that in the beginning, Tanya, about the stimulus and where it's at. Again, right now, the status is $600. We don't know if that will be signed. We don't know if it will be increased. We're going to have to wait and see how all of that plays out with the discussions between the president and Congress to see where those direct payments, let's see, come out. Can you qualify for PPP? Yeah, definitely. If you're reported, a loss in 2019, it depends on your entity type. So if you had payroll, yes, you can get that to pay your payroll. If you're a sole proprietor, no. Now, second round, you could use 2020. So theoretically, you might be able to use 2020, but that would be a little bit strange because if you made a profit in 2020, not 2019, then you wouldn't be able to prove the year-over-year loss. So probably not. Okay. No, there's no extra $100. Not that I've seen. It's just the $300 a week federally that is going to come from the federal government for approximately 11 weeks. Okay, so that was a lot, y'all. That was a lot. I will be back. I will reiterate this. We don't know all the answers yet. We don't know if this bill is if and when this bill will be enacted. There will be something enacted. I am very, very confident in that. Unfortunately, no, there is nothing about student loans in this particular bill. That could be something that we see later, but not in this bill. Oh, it's also worth noting for those of you, because I've heard a few of you guys in my group talking about how you're worried about eviction, that's something that is, you're worried about that. They've extended the eviction moratorium through January. That's not very long. But they also in this bill have about $25 billion, I think, in rental assistance. So we don't know enough about how to get that, how to tap into that. Y'all know that I'm going to be watching for that because I want to make sure that those of you who need that can get access to it. So keep checking back here when we know more on what this rental assistance looks like and how you would get a hold of it. I will let you know, but I know that that is something that is weighing heavily on a lot of you guys right now. And I want to be here to help you through that and make sure that you get the assistance that you need. So I'm glad that you guys are here. You guys, Annette, you're so sweet. You guys are amazing. So yes, and your landlords can actually apply for you for that rental assistance. So and it's actually in the best interest of both of you. So that's something else that is really great, is that the landlord can apply on your behalf. So that, you know, for landlords, this will be a great thing for you guys as well. Anyway, what I was going to say is I want to reiterate that let the dust settle. Y'all go enjoy, you know, this weird COVID Christmas that we're about to have as best you can. There's going to be some political theater on all sides that happen over the next probably week or two. I honestly would just block it out. Like if I could, I would. Because we're gonna get somewhere at the end of it, and it doesn't help us to get all torn up about all the things in the middle of it. Just avoid social media, y'all. Avoid, don't feed into the crazy. Something will get sorted. It will get sorted. And I know there's a lot of emotions running high, and there's a lot that depends on this. But let's wait for the dust to settle on where this ends up, because I do believe that this assistance will eventually pass. The small business assistance will come. We just need to see when and how everything will play out. But I do hope you guys know also we're seeing a huge uptick in the group in activity. Please remember group rules around, you know, just, I know a lot of this it's hard to figure out what is relevant versus what is political in nature versus what is unhelpful. So, you know, please just, we don't need massive political debates. No one changes their mind, you guys, via a political debate on Facebook. It's never happened in the history of time. I fall victim to that sometimes myself. But I'm really going to try to keep it just hopeful and positive within the group. I will continue to bring the information as it stands so that you guys can get the help that you need. Just please don't go down that rabbit hole. Enjoy, you know, your time over the holidays. If you need to just turn everything off and have a glass of wine or three, then, you know, do that, because that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, you guys are awesome. I love you guys so much. I will be back to bring you more information. Let everyone, thank you guys for putting this up. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas for all the things. It will, don't lose sleep. We're going to get through this. We really will. We'll do it together. Anyway, bye guys. Happy holidays to all.